the win-win-win. It's like if we both win, then let's do it, right? Like let's form this partnership. We want and our clients are happy. That's a win all around. We go home happy, we'll go to sleep happy, and we'll, keep producing things happy as well with it.
This is Hackers to Founders, a podcast about cybersecurity professionals who have reached the pinnacle of their cybersecurity expertise and have ventured into new frontiers, whether it's launching innovative startups or making impactful investments in our industry. My name is Chris Magistrato, and I'm a vulnerability researcher best known for traveling and meeting hackers from all around the world. And I'm using what little extrovert skills I have to introduce to you hackers that are changing the world. Welcome to Hackers to Founders, where we deep dive into stories of innovators shaping the cybersecurity landscape. Today, we are thrilled to introduce not one, but two exceptional minds refining the boundaries of security and innovation. First, we have Daniel Amidon, co-founder and CTO of ApolloGuard, with over a decade of experience in vulnerability research and security engineering. Daniel has transitioned from uncovering flaws in systems to building groundbreaking security solutions. He's a blockchain security expert, a mentor to rising talent, and a seasoned entrepreneur who started and exited multiple startups. Now he's laser focused on shaping ApolloGuard's offensive security strategies and driving innovation. Joining him is Pujan, the co-founder and CEO of ApolloGuard, a cybersecurity leader with an impressive background in scaling operations and growth at global companies like Genter and Mach 49. Pujan blends technical expertise with visionary business approach. From product management to venture creation, he's been at the forefront of fostering innovation and delivering results. Together, they're steering ApolloGuard to the forefront of security innovations, tackling an ever-evolving threat landscape, and building tools that empower businesses to thrive. Let's jump in here and hear how the hackers became founders. Thank you. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank
you for having us.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I would love to kind of hear where you guys met, and then we'll kind of go into your backgrounds from there.
Yeah. So about a little bit over a year ago, Daniel and I came across each other at a dinner, and he was sitting right across from me, and we sparked a conversation, getting to know more about him and him getting to know about me. And long story short, we had a lot of close relationships within our mutual circle. And after that dinner, we kept a very close touch, and we later on in those months, we figured out that we had the same mindset and the same goals, and that's where the mission of ApolloGuard came to birth. And here at ApolloGuard, our whole mission is to be more on the offensive side and be more proactive in the field of digital transformation or just any type of product building.
Okay, excellent. And then before you guys started ApolloGuard, you guys had your own journeys and stuff like that. So would love to hear, Punjab, exactly where you were at previously, like, even all the way back towards childhood, like, and then like how you grew up and then what brought you into the industry and then further into creating a business.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Michigan, more particularly Metro Detroit area. Went to school at Oakland University for computer science engineering. So graduated in that, and then had a focus in cybersecurity, leaving university. And then I kind of broke into the startup industry. So various industries, coming from healthcare tech to point of service, kind of like grocery delivering, and then also corporate venture capital. So very, very different of industries. And so after going in, so I moved to Chicago for this company called Getir. It was founded in Turkey. The first they needed to roll out here in the United States, and Chicago was the first market they ever needed to roll out in. I was the first growth employee at that company, so I helped to roll out their customer acquisition roles, more of the sales funnels, and how do we push that market in a very aggressive industry.
If I may ask, what were some of the challenges that you had that you were facing doing that in terms of like the client acquisition that you were like, oh wow, like either you didn't see this as a challenge or like you knew that this was coming and then you're like, okay, cool, like let me tackle this?
Yeah, great question. So at Getir, being you've been in this space for the past 5 years, but in the international markets. Now tapping into the U.S. markets, you have a big competitor pool like Uber Eats, Grubhub, Postmates, right? And they've already made their name out here. GoPuff already made their name out here. So it was very difficult to come into this type of market and change it. So our whole motto was 10-minute grocery delivering from point A to point B of right when you put in the right when you confirm to right when you get it. It's 10 minutes. Um, and then also how we also made a difference is the offerings that we were giving out. So our first offerings that we did, download the app, fill your card up with $25 worth of groceries, and we'll comp it for basically 1 cent. So at the end of the day, you're getting $25 worth of groceries for 1 cent. Very, very aggressive, right? If you and then also is our marketing plan as well. If you when you're pushing out that type of aggressive promotions and whatnot, people are now realizing like, okay, this is kind of cool. Let me download it. Let me see what they're all about.
So very interesting. Yeah, I don't know if you heard the story of Netflix and like how they did something similar with their customer acquisition in the beginning. Have you heard of like when they were giving out 3 free rentals or 3 free DVDs, and then like if you like had purchased a DVD player, but then the DVD players the serial code was on the box, so people would just go up, take a photo, and then they would start pulling a bunch of DVDs and stuff like that, and they were like just abusing the system. So
Yeah, so you
very
see
yeah.
abusement in our system. So people who had iPads, multiple, like if you have roommates or whatnot, one person would be like, all right, I'm going to get this, you get that, and get all delivered. So there was some type of integrity data that we had to, parse out and make sure there's no batching orders the same, there's no fraud and whatnot. So 100% we did see that type of issue as well.
Wow. Yeah. So how did you guys handle that? Was it a lot coming through, or was it like an appropriate amount of fraud? You're like, yeah, we expected this.
It So we saw a lot in specific areas. So for example, college towns, right? People who live in an apartment building. So we kind of made boundaries to the point where like we also didn't want to hurt our user base as well, right? So like we have multiple people living at homes. We live in a big city. We have roommates. We have parents, right? Kids and whatnot. So for we kind of made boundaries. So if it's an apartment building, then we'll look into it. It'll flag it, but we won't decline it right away. If it's, for example, a restaurant that is trying to buy like batches of eggs for their restaurant, then we'll be like, okay, what is going on over here? We see like you have 20 employees working for this restaurant that are buying the same thing. Then we'll flag it and be like, we'll put a hold on it. So we do see those type of cedar sounding of different cases.
That's very cool. Very interesting. Okay, great. And then, um, how did you guys attack the market in terms of like how much market share there was with your competitors with the aggressive approach?
Yeah, with the aggressive approach was different because like our whole like operations were very different compared to like our competitors. Our competitors would have to go to, for example, Costco or Kroger or Myers or like things like that, a convenience store to go pick up the item. This is where Get Here was. We lived off of ghost stores. So what ghost stores were they were all parsed off within miles throughout the whole city. So when you put in your order from your phone, it would be geotagged, and then it would be placed to the nearest ghost store, and then they would get a ping, and then it would be like, all right, that store already has these groceries. Let's just put it in. So that minimum, so it was reducing that time period is how we kind of beat our customer acquisition and user base.
That's very interesting. So is it like similar like ghost restaurants where there's not an actual physical shop, but you order something and then it will like come like the restaurant will like a restaurant will have the ingredients and bring it over to you? In that like there's not a physical shop that you're like, oh, I want to shop here at CVS. It's more just like, what do you want? And then we'll figure out exactly where to get it.
Yeah, so it's not like, oh, we're gonna get it from CVS. So what Getir did was they used their supply chain. So they bought everything in house. They went straight to their suppliers. So any from bread to milk to eggs to deli, any type of that, they bought the inventory to bring it in house. So anything that you'll get from CVS or Walgreens, any of those like popular name brand items, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, you will be able to get it in the Getir app as well. So it's basically going straight to the supplier source and taking out that, that CVS convenience store type of operational time, and then feeding the time over for the delivery side.
Do you guys have to have like a distribution center, or does it come directly from the location that the supplier has it at?
No, so the supplier would come straight to the store. They'll drop off drop off their delivery and whatnot, and then go from there. But then yeah, and then it would be delivered right on electric bikes, or mopeds and things like that during the winter times. If it's like snowing, then they would switch to cars, and then we'll put like a tag saying like, "Hey, due to weather, delivery times have been exceeding, and it's going to be taking more than 10 minutes."
Okay, very nice. And then what were you doing after that?
Yeah, so they grew, or they raised too much, and they grew too fast. They raised Series E, $758 million. I was part of that full raise amount, and it was cool. Like, it was cool being part of a we're called a decacorn company, and whatnot. But they grew too fast. I saw that, and then I moved into corporate venture capital at Mach 49, and that's where I got to know more about that venture corporate side. And they did a lot of work in the renewable energy side, and me being well looped into that, I saw some measures on the security end, kind of bringing it back into my college days of like kind of like vulnerabilities. There's some type of measures that people were not looking out for, and I thought that you would really need to, or else it will hurt the industry. And then in that time period, that's kind of where I met Daniel.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I'd like to hear, because a lot of what you're speaking about in terms of your experience at Getir, and then as you moved over to revenue operations at Mach 49, and your degree was in computer science. So you had a degree in computer science, but then you were applying and utilizing roles that were more managerial and revenue based, and like kind of even sales or like customer acquisition side of things.
Yeah.
Were those things that you learned as you were in these roles, or did you kind of like learn it prior somewhere, reading books and things like that, and then kind of like inserted yourself into these types of businesses and said like, hey, I don't have a degree in this, but I really like this stuff and I have an idea. Like, how did you get your first foot in the door in a role that was not directly technical?
Yeah, so all these positions that I've had in like Getir, Luma Health, Mach 49, they're all data-based heavy, right? Like, I had to pull data to utilize my decisions. And that's where I first could say is my computer science, degree really, really helped me. Analyzing that data set, even for example, pulling using SQL to go into the system, and integrate a dashboard to get whatever numbers that I need to make a decision, or to help make a decision going forward for any type of organization. And then going to the second part of your question is like how. So I was always kind of entrepreneurial focused heavy. In high school, that was my first entrepreneurial type of avenue. I started buying and selling shoes, more of like Jordans, hype clothing, and
This was in
whatnot.
college?
No, this was in high school.
In high school, like on
Yeah.
StockX and like flipping them, or
This,
what
this
were
was
you doing?
way before StockX. This was like during Facebook. This was way before Facebook Marketplace was a thing. This was when Facebook had like groups of like buying and selling kicks, and I would be joining them. And then this was right before like Nike knew about bots, and then I would integrate bots into Google Chrome extension. So right when the sneaker would release, I would get like, yeah. So like this was back in the days where all that was happening, and then I would just kind of have to take a whim of like meeting random people out in Michigan and be like, all right, here you go. Or like just going into sneaker conferences and getting tables and whatnot, and trying to make deals like that. So that's what my whole like kind of entrepreneurship like avenue started. And then in high school, that's when I first got into like tech in like in coding and whatnot. And then I've always like tried to blend that two together.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's similar to my background. I worked at Georgia Tech at the Institute of Information Security for Privacy, and I was managing like 150 servers. But there was like one thing. I think I was like making a side project. I spoke to one of the students, and I was like, "Hey, like I'm trying to make some like sniper bots for like these stuff on like some drops that are going to come out and stuff." And um, it was similar to the point of like, okay, like let's get a server, let's see how fast we can ping it and stuff like that. And like we got it down a few milliseconds, and like when the drop happens, we were still too late. And I was like, what the hell could they be doing and stuff like that? And this was around, I don't know if you were still in the in shoes at the time, but this is when like when Yeezy Mafia was like really like taking over a bunch of shit. So I was like, these guys are like, I feel like there's probably they have it on the inside because there's no fucking way that they're beating it on the tech side. I don't know what the hell they could be doing. Like they'd like DDoS everyone else, and then they would only swoop them or something. I don't know, but it was a fun and interesting, challenging.
This was right when Kanye released like Red Octobers, Yeezy Red
Yeah,
Octobers. This is like 13, I would say 2012.
yeah. And that's what I
Um,
was gonna say.
yeah, so that's kind of like how I kind of got into like entrepreneurship, and I just like that hustle, and it just inspired me to keep going forward and keep pushing.
How did you know like the values of like what shoes were going to be like more popular or not? Was it pretty much like on a whim, or did you have like any data to back it?
I mean, from back then, no one had StockX, no one had, right? So I based it off of the hype around it, and then also I was part of like various random Facebook groups from like international side to here in like focus in Michigan and even in North America. So seeing what other people were selling them at was for that helped me gauge what prices was where I would be able to sell it as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. All right, cool. That's amazing. All right, and then Daniel, I'd love to hear about your story. You have a rich background as well, a lot of it in cybersecurity, but would also like to hear like your journey into cybersecurity as well. So like when even as a child, like did you expose yourself to these types of ideas of like going beyond and figuring things out and uncovering doors that might be locked?
Yeah. So basically, I was in online high school, or sorry, middle school, and basically my parents bought me a laptop. I was like, all right, I finished my schoolwork. I'm done. I'm kind of bored. Let me see what I can find, and just kind of exploring. As kids do, we played Roblox, we played different online games, that kind of thing. But that didn't really interest me. I was kind of like bored from that. I'm like, all right, let me see if there's any ways where I can, have some fun, make some money off of this or whatever. So I came across a bunch of forums, tech forums, like from things to from like I guess I was looking at forums on Hacker News years ago, and one of the forums were talking about websites and website building and how like this the new like web stuff and all that kind of thing. And I came across like one of the forums like how to build a website. I'm like, okay, let me look into this. Started looking into that, and this is like way before HTTPS was even a thing yet. And I'm like, hey, like this is great. So I kind of just started a business building websites and going around my community, asking business owners, hey, website storefront, can I build you one and I'll maintain it for this sort of price? And there we go. So this is kind of like how I started my tech slash entrepreneurial like journey from that standpoint. As time goes on, we moved a couple of states out, and one of my close neighbors ends up being a very like well-known cybersecurity professional, and he had like a cybersecurity team called Samurai, and we were able to combine our skill sets and be able to join, that as team to create it how it is today. Right now, it has over 800 plus hackers. We've done things with DEF CON CTF. We've done things for international competitions. We've won many of them, and we lost some of them. So, like, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. So that's kind of like how I got started into the cybersecurity space was because of my mentor, who's been in the space for years and years and years. And he's like, "Hey, I want to like see if I can mentor you up. I'm going to see like show you the ropes, and you go from there." So I'm very thankful for that like mentorship to be able to show me the ropes. I'm like, "Hey, where you are now, you're just a script kiddie. You just do like code websites. That's all you do. But I want to get you to where you can find actual like vulnerabilities, O days, win days, in days, like that kind of thing." So I'm like, perfect, let's do that. So basically, over the years, I've worked for various different companies, from Dragos to ICR, which is a government contracting company. I've done things with like Google Project Zero, Apple's their team doing like research for them as well. So that kind of like area of expertise, and that's kind of like I guess the background from my standpoint of how I got here from that.
Okay, excellent. You've given a lot of really great details. So, your mentor that you were able to discover, let's say we have some listeners that are interested to getting into cybersecurity. And I'll say this, like, and I'm sure you guys both have like probably experienced this already. Like, you'll mention you do cybersecurity, and then everyone will be like, "Oh man, like how do I get into it?" And then some people they're just like, "I need a mentor." Like, "Will you mentor me?" And it's like, "Bro, I don't have enough time in the day to like sit down with you. Like, I'll throw some books at you or something." So like, let's say there's some listeners and they're like, "I want to break into cybersecurity, but I'm only gonna do it if I have a mentor." What kind of advice would you give them, or where would you point them to? And how would you fill that conversation gap?
Yeah, basically right now, back then, like a lot of the online forums were not really like geared towards script kiddies. It was more so like, hey, if you're a real hacker, you're able to get in. But nowadays, the entry to like barrier to entry is a lot lower. So we're like, hey, I'm really interested, and basically just like Google up like CTF teams, capture flag teams. A lot of them are very, very welcoming us as well. On Samurai, like we host CTFs that are happening around the world every single weekend. We train people, we help people out. So that's kind of like what we do. And a lot of other teams do the same thing. Um, I guess for like the biggest thing for mentors, and this is like what my mentor said as well, is like you have to be persistent and consistent, and not just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and then you walk away and you never hear from them again. Like being able to because they also have lives as well, so you have to make sure you're also continuously updating them. They're updating you. And if there's anything that clashes with like, hey, there's this connection I can introduce you to, go for that. And if you actually do it, great. But if you don't do it, then it kind of like makes the mentor kind of not want to proceed with that because they don't see you putting in effort as well. And I've seen that a lot. And I tried mentoring people as well, like hundreds of people, and all of them have ghosted me. Like I'm like, hey, here's all the resources, here's everything I can show you how to get to where I'm at. It won't take 6 months. It won't take 2 years. It'll take, a good 3 or 4 years to get to the skill set and level that you would need to be where I'm at. And like none of them have gotten back to me ever since. So like if I for some advice, like continue to actually do the work that you're saying you're gonna do, and don't back out. Because if you quit, how are you gonna know where you're gonna end up being in 5 or 10 years? So that's my biggest thing is just never quit and continue it. Unless it's like not for you anymore, and at least communicate that as well. So like we also know, but yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that like, they don't know where to start and they're always like asking like, where do I go kind of thing. So that's great that you're giving out guidance to them to try to figure out how to approach things. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, CTF teams are the biggest thing. Online forums. There's a lot of like online training now, like Cybrary, TCM. Like all those guys and gals are also having courses out there. Like courses are sometimes like a bad rep for a lot of other industries, but courses in like the cybersecurity realm, where if you know the person and they know or they're reputable, then actually following along with their courses is probably the best bet for the bang of your buck if you don't want to go to college and that sort of thing. And that's like the biggest thing with my experience is I never went to college, and everything was self-taught. So besides just being a mentor, I self-taught myself everything that I know, from binary reverse engineering to code development to exploit development to all these things. And it's not none of it was from college. Nothing wrong with going to college, but it's just more every person's different, and my path was just choosing not to follow that path.
Definitely. I would even say I'm I'm not gonna tell people not to go to college, but what I will say is like if you're interested in cybersecurity, you need to like look deeper than any types of college programs because I honestly, unless you're going to Ivy League, I don't think that you get the breadth of knowledge and information that you need in cybersecurity. At least not at a bachelor's level. For computer science, you're gonna get an understanding of God. I hope like you learn like the basics of computer science, like you're learning like assembly, you're learning like deeper stuff, machine code, just to understand how things work on that level. But in some universities, you don't. But in terms of cybersecurity, it's a big landscape. You could almost just go to do that and like I don't want to say avoid the computer science stuff, but you could probably prune some of the computer science stuff out, and they're just good to like look around in cybersecurity. You need to know networking. You need to know cloud infrastructure if you're going to do other types of things, like anywhere really. And then like loggings and like how to live off the land and things like this. Depending, and then I would say that's mostly the basics portions, but I won't get too deep into that unless you guys want to have a breath of that. If you guys have any opinions on that.
Yeah, just to add to it, I think on the bachelor's level, the just schools are real just good at teaching you just the fundamentals of what it is, but I think it's on that person to be curious to learn more and dig deeper. Because I feel like if you don't be curious in this type of or in this type of market, then you kind of you just won't. You just learn like the superficial or like the top end of it.
Yeah, if you're looking for a 9 to 5 job, this cybersecurity is not it. So it's probably the last one to be it, because it's like you got to know what's interesting, like what's going on today, and then what's going on tomorrow, almost before it happens. The better that you're able to do that, the better you're going to be in cybersecurity. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to listen, connect, be a part of the network of people that are saying stuff on Twitter, whatever, on the news and stuff like that. Learn about different hacks that are going on and following the trends. If you are out for like a year in cybersecurity, you're kind of out like 3-4 years, and you got to like catch back up. Definitely.
What I like to say it is just like anyone who's just trying to go into it, just like immerse yourself into it fully, like just into the pool. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. Just like try to tread water, try to have fun with it, and just learn while you go.
Yeah, definitely do all the things. I always say like do the things that are shiny first, because that'll entertain you. You'll get your feet wet. You'll learn that you really like it, or you're like, I don't like this part, and then you'll find something else shiny. And then once you know what things that are shiny that you like, then go deeper into those things. And as you go deeper, you'll make other connections to different areas. You can be a master in one area and absolutely know nothing in another area, and that's okay, because there's a lot of people that are like experts of like something, that are like literally god tier at something, and then like if you ask them about another part, they're like, I actually don't know a lot about that at all, and that's okay. All right, so we spoke a lot about how you guys got into the industries, both of you guys' respected industry. Now I'd like to hear what was the initial thought in terms of like, we should start a company, and then the final moment where you guys like texted or called each other and be like, bro, let's do this.
So basically, with that, my previous companies, I've started like crypto security companies to different other ventures. I've exited out of those, and I've always noticed like there was always more to it, and I've always hit a cap at every single industry that I was in. And when I exited out, I'm like, I could do better than that. And I kind of did like a 1 year hiatus after leaving Dragos. I was like, hey, let me see what I can figure out. And I was networking with other people, going to networking events, to international, national events as well, just seeing like what the ideas are out there for it. And I came across Pujan, kind of like where you mentioned where how we met. And I'm like, hey, like my cybersecurity expertise, I know like a bit about what we can do, and you have like your business side. Let's see if there's like some like ideas that we could throw around. And at first we were like thinking of like some like AI security tool where we can just develop and go to venture capital firms and see where we can hit, like go from there. And we tried that for 2 or 3 months and kind of came into a dead end. We're like, well, does it really work? Like a lot of the AI security tools out there are great, but you can't really automate offensive security. And we've noticed that. And a lot of the companies we talk to are always saying, like, we're losing a ton of money. This is not like the path to go down. Unfortunately, offensive security, or not, unfortunately, but fortunately for us, offensive security needs to be manual work. You can't, like, some stuff you can automate to help you out with the process, like maybe 45 to 50% of the load work. But majority of it is manual work. And, you need the expertise to do that. So I'm like, all right, let's like figure something out again. We revamped our company and we started ApolloGuard. And after that, we've just, gotten clients on board. We've done things with pen testing, vulnerability research, to consulting, blockchain security as well with the Web3 space. So, we're just trying to start growing up and seeing how we can develop this company to become one of the bigger ones out there. But it's just consistency and networking and, kind of putting out there the reputation that we have. And with my background in the last decade plus of experience, my reputation has been there. And with the clients that we were approaching, they know that, and it's kind of been easier to approach that client and be like, hey, this is what I've done, this is what the company's done, this is what we're doing, and we were able to provide a solution to you guys to be able to, help out your future security of your company.
And to add that, I feel like right off that offensive security side of what Daniel was saying, and that's where our mission grew. You can't really automate. You can't automate offensive security. Yes, you could automate you could use tools to automate some of your processes to make it easier and faster and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's more of our ApolloGuard more runs on the proactive type of mission, right? It's more of like we need to start. If you find a vulnerability into your system, that's a little bit too late for your organization to start like now thinking about security. What happened to the thing is like Daniel and I both, have this mission of where any type of product enhancement or any type of building, there should always be an avenue of thought of like, okay, what are the security measures? What do we have to even potentially think about? What are the regulatory things we need to take accountable for, and then go from there as part of building instead of just go straight to building and then the product is done and now be like, okay, let's just roll it out there and see how it does in the market, and then oh wait, it got penetrated, we got to go back, let's go fix it, right? So that's where our whole type of thesis statement came in, and our whole mission.
Okay, nice. And then how did you guys, so from your guys' inception, right? You guys were able to get clients. So how was it finding and discovering your guys' first client, and how was the onboarding process with them, and how did it feel when you guys like got your first client?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know, like, with the expertise that I bring onto the table and the expertise that Daniel brings onto the table, we have a full circle. The previous relationships that I've came across and the previous relationship that we built together and he's built on his own and then we bring to the table, that's really, really how helped us get our first, contract into ApolloGuard. So that was what it was, utilizing our circle, utilizing our close, relationships, and then going from there and be like, hey guys, this is what we've done. We've started this new organization, new mission. We'd love to help out in any type of way, and then going from there. Even on the operational side and like the building the fundamentals of like how the sales process is going to work and whatnot. Like that's what Daniel and I, we learned right off the brim. We created all those steps while going through that first process, and then even closing that first process, we've gone back to the table and when we're like, okay, maybe we need to go redefine this part of that process or this part. So go back, and redefining is always the best, right? Making things better, making things quicker, and whatnot. So that's what I hope that answered that question pretty well.
Yeah, no, it did. As you guys were like redefining, your sales process and onboarding new clients, what was my question? It was well, give me a second. I'm brain fart. So we had onboarding the clients, and then you guys went back and refined the process. Was your first client that you guys had? Oh, that was right. So when you guys had your first client, was it something where you guys had like a long list and you guys were doing like cold outreach, or you guys were extending your the network that you guys already have and nurturing existing connections for the first few clients? Was it more warm than cold, or was it kind of like all over the place? How would you guys like say that you guys went about the first few clients?
Yeah, good question. So it was more about like, we didn't try to go more of a sales approach, right? Like cold call, whatever. Is more of like, what organizations do we have within our circle, or within our relationships that we could potentially even offer or even close the loop on their own mission, right? So it was more of like partnerships. It was more about referrals. It was more about, forming those type of relationships first from the get-go. It's not like, oh, we've made this company, we want to provide you the service. I hope you could write a check for us and then go from there, right? That's not our whole mission. It's more, our whole mission was like, let's build together whatever you guys are building. We want to back it up in any type of security realm. Or if you guys are currently in the security industry, how can we close that other loose ends within your product and help it make it even more, redefine it even more better? So with that whole mindset, I feel like kind of gave us a good backbone on how to approach that first client, and or not even the first client, the first few clients in general for us. And then growing from there, right? It's more of like, okay, if we do form that partnership, how can it's not a one-way street. We want to also put more to the table as well.
Okay, got it. And then you guys, I don't know if you guys are able to talk about numbers or not, but like how much money were you guys like revenue generating on your first year? And then what was the overhead operation cost? Because a recruiting agency like ours is like really low. I imagine your guys's would also be relatively low. But I would love to hear what you guys, because you guys are more like an agency based, right? Where it's a service based. You guys provide a service and help them with whatever types of needs that they have, and then they cut you guys a check, or is it like a subscription model where they'll pay on annual basis? Like how is the model set up for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so not to go, we won't go too deep into numbers, but we didn't raise money. We didn't raise money. We're a bootstrap company, so any dollar that we do see in our bank account is a big smile on our face for Daniel and I, and for the whole team here at AG. Um, and then the other one was our overhead cost was, not really that steep. We Daniel and I are onto this mission because we believe in it, and and it's not like, okay, we're trying to do whatever, trying to see or trying to grow, as or potentially personally for us, we're trying to get as much money or become whatever. We just want to make a difference into the change of the market. And yeah, I hope that answers the question. I don't want to say numbers and whatnot. And our first ROI and whatnot, but it's good. We, as being bootstrapped, right? Any number that we see is a good ROI into the company.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And then the majority of your guys' clients and stuff like that, you guys have some that are in the United States and then some that are international. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we do. We tend to point our eyes into both markets, international and the U.S. here.
So I have a question about both sides of the market, at least where you guys are currently viewing, and then what have you guys seen like in other types of companies? My guess is that the U.S. market pays more than the international markets, but I guess it depends on what locations and stuff like that. So I want to know if you guys have any exposure or to any information about like what types of like price points that you guys receive, whether it be international or U.S. side.
Yeah, great question. So more, I mean, yeah, right, like U.S. There's a difference versus the when you go into the international side. Yes, it's cheaper. Yes, but see, the thing is we pry on, and the clients that really want to come to us are the ones that the quality of work that we provide. It's not the what, right? It's how deep that we go. We don't really go be like, all right, we know you want this. We'll just do the most basic stuff and then give you that type of report. So then you fulfill that timeline into your company or whatever, right? We don't try to do that, and that's the statement that we set out in the beginning of that initial call. That's the type of tone that we said. It's like, listen, like we care about like the work and the quality, and then we also just dig deeper. And if we do find something, we just won't tell you. We'll help you fix that problem.
Got it. Okay. And I guess you could also like, show, given that you guys are Americans and stuff like that, you can say like this is like US based security and stuff like that, or you could pitch it, yeah, as such. But I have a question. So as you guys are growing the company, what are some like next steps and things that you guys are planning on doing that will help bring you guys even farther into the stratosphere?
More in like the market or in like what, right?
Yeah, I meant in the market, but if there's other areas like in the cybersecurity industry, have you guys like developed quantum cryptography or something like this as well? Yeah, please share.
Yeah, no, more on the products that grow internally as ApolloGuard, bring more products into the thing. We're more of a solutions based effort. Like we like to bring solutions to you guys, not more of like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. It's a one time type of deal. And then I think picking back to your previous question, it was more of like the model. We have two models. One, it's like a subscription based, and then also more of like a one time type of solution. And then in our next projected years, I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, we want to continue to, you know, build on our mission and then build on our reputation of ApolloGuard. The markets that we want to, more focus on are the the markets that really need that security run, which is healthcare, more on the financial side too, and then also in the federal government side as well. We really want to, push those markets out.
Exactly, and that's where our company, Top Cleared Recruiting, comes in. Finding the right cybersecurity talent with the necessary clearances can be a major hurdle. Did you know that it could take 8 to 15 months on average to hire somebody with a TS SCI plus full polyscope? At Top Cleared Recruiting, we have a network of 1.3 million cleared professionals, ranging from CNO developers, reverse engineers, and data scientists. Whether you're working on offensive operations or data analysis, we connect you with the elite talent you need fast. Visit topclearrecruiting.com and let us help you to find the perfect candidate, already cleared and ready to go. Okay, beautiful. All right, excellent. Yeah, so if anyone's listening and they're interested in working with ApolloGuard in terms of government contracting or any of these areas, feel free to reach out to either Daniel or Punjab or myself.
Yeah, Daniel, did I miss on anything?
Yeah, basically to add on to that stuff as well. So like the future of what we're trying to do is, create an offensive security platform as well to kind of like leverage what we have. Can't talk too much into details of what it will be, but it'll complement the services and the solutions that we provide into a platform as well for the client. They're always, up to date on and aware of what we're finding, ways to, fix bugs and vulnerabilities that they have and that sort of thing. So like having that platform will be, an extra step to, creating more value for the client instead of just like, hey, we just offer services. You're kind of blindsided, like, all right, we'll update you via like text messages or like, online communication through secure communication. That's it. But we feel like we can also provide more value and just, have a platform for them to, log into or, provide to their clients to be like, hey, this is what's happening. These are the bugs that we found. These are the vulnerabilities that we found, and it's always live. So you're always aware of what's actually happening and what's going on with that project that you are, working with us for. So
Okay, very interesting. So, building a platform to be able to display all the vulnerabilities and things that are in specific types of networks. As you guys are mentioning, doing like healthcare and other types of networks. I worked at a company called Assembly where we would mitigate the risk of exploitation through network segmentation. And one of the things that they were doing was they would integrate with ServiceNow and other types of platforms to be able to serve data. Indicators of potential issues and stuff like that. Have you guys also considered or are looking into other types of ways to integrate your guys' solutions and things that you found into existing marketplaces, whether it be healthcare or other areas? Or do you guys feel that it's the strongest approach is to provide the platform to have customers come in and be able to see everything right there and there?
I think it'll be more, on our side for things. Like other platforms are great, and we've partnered with many, many other platforms out there for the time being. Just seeing, how we could help with, how we could help with them, how they can help with our clients, and vice versa. With our partnership, it's always a two-way street, like where we provide value and they would provide value back to us as well. So, it's never a one-way street to where like, oh, all right, you're providing us value, but we're not providing any value. Like we don't, mess with that kind of partnership. We always want to make sure both sides are happy. And, the partnership that we've gone through, we were like, AI security like tools that we can use in-house and our clients can also use it for their in-house tooling as well. To different, platforms for MSPs, we've also used that as well. So, we've like currently been using them. We think we can make it just a bit better in terms of like how our I guess culture is and how we provide value and the output and the quality that we provide for the client is to be able to hey, like we don't have to go through so many third party like brokers and platforms and all these things just to get to your solution. Like let's just make it all into one thing and here you go.
Another area that we're trying to bring more solutions to is more cybersecurity insurance companies, right? More on the risk analysis, making sure that whatever they're insuring or any type of organization that they're insuring, that risk that they're going or that they're analyzing it through is precise. And it's more of like not like let's look at the tech that they're using and they're integrating with. We got to look at more deeper down and be like, okay, what are their like vulnerability? Like, what are the platforms that they're working with? Who are their end users, and who are the consumers that are touching that product?
Okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. So like when you're analyzing and you're looking into this Punjab, like I suspect you're the one that are like speaking with the clients and like doing the sales. Is that correct, or are Daniel? Are you also doing the sales side?
Yeah, I mean, we both do it, but I do the outreach, I do the operational, I'll do like the making sure we're on task on our goals, we're hitting our metrics, making sure what in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe in the next year or so, what's working, what's not working, what do we have to revamp, and making sure Apollo Guard is staying on track, and making sure the work that we're providing is also that top notch that we've always promised about.
Okay, great. So I have this question because like I feel that there's a lot of people in cybersecurity, like if you're going on the very technical side of things, that they want to venture off. They want to start their own business, but then they're kind of just petrified, terrified, all of the fied of speaking to clients and being like, "Hey, I hack thing good." They want to like, they don't know how to sell themselves, let alone a company and the service things. At other types of agencies and other types of like firms. It's segmented. Obviously, the pen testers generally aren't the ones doing the pre-sales and sales, right? So, would like to hear if you have any advice on how to speak and understand the client's needs so successfully that you guys were able to close on deals.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'll full transparency, right? When we first started Apollo Guard, I kind of felt that as well, right? I kind of felt so how I kind of went through, or how I overcame that was more of like trying to put myself out there in front of people and actually doing that work, like speaking and giving knowledge about what you're trying to start, and then going back home. So it doesn't even have to be in a conference. I have to know like 500 people conference. If anything, just go to like a maybe local meetup that is focused in tech and not just focus in a specific like healthcare, right? Just go to a random meetup, and you're gonna come across students. You'll come across other like new founders that are in the same boat as you, and then communicating and actually like explaining what your mission is and what your new track is on, then going back home and be like, oh, like what worked, what didn't work, what like did I what if I said this, did it hit them that well, or like do I approach it to a different way, and then going to the next like meetup or like coffee chat, or like a meeting online that you do on Zoom, like implementing those new procedures. It's always a working move. So that's what I would say. And then going to like those bigger conferences, then you're not scared. You're like, okay, screw this. I'm gonna go up there and talk my thing about ApolloGuard because one, I care about it. It's not more of like, oh, I'm scared and I'm like, what if I say this wrong or say that wrong?
That's really interesting. So, for my listeners, like I want to emphasize what he's talking about because it's a very 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 interesting and unique point that I would have never thought about. So, thank you so much for sharing this. And let me try to explain it and like let me know if like I'm on the right track or if I'm like not. So, he's Punchad's saying like don't just go to like DEF CON. Don't just go to B-Sides and talk about you have a cybersecurity company because they're all there already. He's saying that you should go to adjacent industries or industries that are not cybersecurity, like healthcare, like other types of conferences, and give a talk there and kind of share what you do. And like, hey, I'm the cybersecurity guy here because everyone else is there. They're giving talks about whatever part of their segment in the industry. But if you go there, there's maybe one or two other companies, but you now look like the biggest fish of whatever you're talking about in that type of vertical because you're there and because you showed up. And that speaks significantly louder than if you were just, at the absolutely same size fish or even smaller at a cybersecurity conference, right? Because everyone else is doing the exact same thing as you. But if you step out and go to different types of industries, and speak at those ones, you're significantly stronger. Does that sound about right? What you guys are doing strategy wise?
Yeah, and also just like going back and like talking about your company at an early stage of founding, at that founding area. Um, like going to like fire chats, if it's like a product demo that a VC is holding in your, because we're in Chicago, it's a metropolitan area, so there's different types of events that go around. Like in the mornings, there's like a 2 hour coffee chat that students will come that are working on random projects, and talking to them and learning. And if you talk about your own company and the mission that you're on, and then actually like working those words and actually redefining it also helps as well. Being in a smaller environment and a bigger environment, vice versa. But yeah, spot on.
That's beautiful. And then what kind of results have you guys seen from speaking to the smaller types of, not smaller, the size doesn't matter, but speaking to like students or people that are founders versus maybe medium size related conferences that are a little bit bigger? Do you guys get better results with one or the other for different types of things, or is it kind of like the same across the board?
Yeah, it's very, very different on like if it's more on the bigger, so if it's like DEF CON and things like that, yeah, it's very different from a conference that it's like, mid-sized. Our our outreach is very different from both, because then we look at it from an outer scale, or from an outer lens, I should say, and think about like, okay, what is this conference about? Who's going to be there, and can we tap into that market? If like one of those, if the tap into the market is like, for example, it's like food industry, right? And if you're going to a wholesale or like a conference that like provides shelving and non-tech related type of things, like does a cybersecurity company really need to be there? Probably not, right? So kind of like checkboxing those, and redefining the out, instead of like, focusing, and starting a company earlier on, and or early stage. A lot of founders tend to be very focused and very lens in, and I like to say it's very good to be like that, and I am that way. But there's days where I like to take a step back and look at an outer picture and be like, okay, am I doing this good? Because laser focused to the point where like, or I need to take a different avenue or a different approach of brainstorming.
Yeah, I think that's just spot on, talking about like how founders and entrepreneurs do that, because like, you have to, the one skill about being an entrepreneur is like you have to be able to like go down deep, but also be able to pause, take a step back up, and then look at the overview and say like, am what I'm doing right now the best use of my time for where we want to go, or did I go a little bit too deep down? And it's literally, you got to do this I would say I do this pretty often, like at least maybe once a week. I should be stepping back out. I would say like there's less stepping back up to doing overview, where you need to do it more. That's more beneficial, to the point of like where like maybe you do it too much. I don't do it enough. So I need to, yeah. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I do it pretty frequently throughout the week. I mean, even sometimes I contradict. I mean, having Daniel as a really, really good partner, right? Like we bounce out great ideas. I mean, he's not shy to tell me like, yo, dude, like maybe this is a bad idea, and then he'll give me reasons, and I'll be like, oh wow, okay, you're right. So I'm actually very thankful for having someone like Daniel, and actually we could piggyback off of each other on random ideas, on different things. So, and having a good partner like that, and being open, right? Being open to with your other co-founder is very, very, like I would say, it's very good. Like very beneficial. I think that's like the biggest relationship thing that you should work on first, and then having that atmosphere of like, hey, I am okay with having my co-founder like nail me, and I can wake up the next day and not feel like shit, basically.
Right. Because it's the benefit of the company. It's not like a personal attack. If it's a personal attack, then your relationships maybe a little not good. I'll just say it's not good. Like,
yeah,
it's just dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. So I very I'm thankful for that relationship with Daniel now that we've created in this time being up here in ApolloGuard, and even outside of that, we have a really, really good friendship.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, a lot of people there's been a few books that talk about like different types of how do you say, different types of ways that co-founders like organize, or like how one person is like the integrator and then the other person is like more the ideas person? Are you the more idea person? Daniel's more integrator of like, okay, I'll build the thing, I'll do the thing, whatever else, just give the direction of what we want to do over the time, and then give me 20 ideas. I'll tell you 19 of them suck, or like 15 suck, and like 5 was like that could work and kind of thing. Is that kind of the relationship?
Yeah. It's yes, basically. And then Daniel comes up to me at times. We'd be like, "Yo, dude, I think we need a. This is not working." And then I'll be like, "Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that." And then we'll come up and redefine it even better, and then go reintegrate whatever we redefined.
I mean, with both of us having entrepreneurial backgrounds, it helps a lot. Because I've built businesses, he's built businesses, so we understand how revenue happens, how profit happens, how like hey, like we were talking like a couple months back, we're like hey, like yes, we're making money for all of our clients, and like they're getting value out of it, and we're also making money as well, so both businesses are happy. But as ApolloGuard, we also have to have profitability to be able to, continue growing, to continue hiring, like reverse engineers, vulnerability researchers, security engineers, to be able to, grow the company. And I think something that, both of us agreed on was like, hey, we understand how a business should work, and we should be continuing in that path. A lot of like very big companies, and I've worked with them in the past, no shade whatsoever, but like they just don't know how to operate an actual company. They just, they were hackers before, but then the entrepreneurial like background is just not there with managing and all that kind of thing. And that's kind of like why I started Apollo Guard. Basically, like as a whole, was like to basically provide the value that I wanted to provide as a IC person in these previous companies, and now provide that better and a lot I guess streamlined to then have the client be I guess more satisfied with the results that we're providing and that sort of thing. Because again, like all the past like companies I've like worked with, it's just like they lie to most of their clients. So like, hey, this is what we're providing, and they really don't provide that. So yeah.
Mm. Got it. So you want to provide more value, not on paper what you'll say, but actually bring it forward is what I'm hearing.
Correct. Yes. There's a lot of pen testing shops. They just like, hey, we're just gonna pen test you, and this is what we're gonna be doing for your company, and we're like, great. And then we like some of them are like white labeling. We'll white label them to come on, and half their pen test is automation stuff, which is great. But then you have to also manually do it, and then sometimes like not even half of it, just like all of it is manually, like sorry, automated. And I'm like, why did you automate all this? Like, we need to know, like, are there some manual task being done so we can actually provide the quality that we are saying we provide. And when that happens, we also have to step in, remove them, and come in and actually do the work ourselves and provide that value. 'Cause, if it doesn't meet our standards, then we can't be happy with providing this to the client.
Another thing I would like to add on to that is like we've seen with our clients would interact with them, we'll ask them questions, and then we'll be like, "Oh, when was the last time you did an assessment?" Then we look at that assessment, and then we look at their infrastructure, and the same. Sometimes it's the same findings you come across. It's like, who was supposed to fix this on your last assessment? So there's a lot of loose ends that we see, and that's the type of gap that ApolloGuard is very trying to like close in.
That's really interesting. So let's I'd love to hear this, like not an actual example, but like, okay, so you look at a company, and then you're like, you see the previous reports, and it's like this exact same issues. So is the next movement that you say like, look, it looks like we discovered the same things, which means it's probably something on the internal side, which means maybe you're having some types of feelings about adjustments or changing things because they haven't been changed before. Is there anything that we can do to help educate or share with you some information about ways that you can make these changes without hurting business operations or whatever else your kind of fear is, and like kind of, I guess, ask them like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why didn't you guys fix this kind of thing?
Yeah, basically, sometimes it's more of like, hey, like we had different priorities, right? I mean, like,
yeah, okay,
fine, I understand that, right? Your team is busy.
I mean, maybe it was like Log4j or like,
I mean,
how bad's the vulnerability
like
talking?
different, like the tech team is working on something different and whatnot. That's the one thing. Second thing is, it's like, we've seen is like they're surprised, and then they go back to the team, and then we figure out like, oh, one person just handed it off, and that project just kept on getting handed off until someone just forgot about it, right? And then that's when, and then the second, and then the third thing is like, yeah, we'll educate them to the point where like, what is the situation? Is it, are you guys scared? Are you guys, and then we'll talk to them and be like, and then we'll give them other propositions and of ways to fix it. And then we'll help them. Yeah, and then we'll work with them. Like we'll work with the developers and give them that type of backbone, so then they don't feel left out, right?
Right. Okay, that makes sense. When analyzing like a company to determine like which ones you guys want to speak with, we'll say I think an obvious example, an obvious case would be like if there was like somebody who's like, oh, I started a company, I'm making like $100 a month. Maybe they don't need a pen test, but like, what are some like companies that you would look for in terms of like which ones you guys approach, right? Is there a specific like dollar figure, like revenue that you guys like aim for where they're making, or size in terms of like the number of employees? Like, what are some indicators of like saying like we would like to target these types of firms and work with?
Yeah. So I mean, any company that is mid market to enterprise, right? I would say mid market is right at that cusp of that organization is making an ROI of $6 million, right? That's classified as mid market area, I would say, or a little bit. I would just say mid market, not even put a dollar sign on it, just mid market to enterprise, and then also private sectors as well.
Okay. You said private sector, so mid market, 6 mil revenue. Are you referring to companies that like IPO already, or are you referring to something else entirely?
Yeah, it could be an IPO company as well that we could go for, or and but that see the thing is that's more of like they know what they want, and then so we'll come in and provide whatever.
Is it a like legal requirement that companies have like an annual pen test?
It depends on what. Yeah, I mean for healthcare, I mean there's regulations like if you're, I mean how like HIPAA, right? It depends on what type of industry you're with. But yes, there are industries that require annual.
Annual ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and also a lot of companies want to do it quarterly. Some of them just want to do bi quarterly. So it just depends on also the company themselves. Because if they're large and their clients who they're working with require that to be able to continue, providing that partnership or providing that value to their client, a lot of them are like, hey, we want you to be pen testing every single quarter, and we want to make sure everything's up to date and you're secure. And some clients and their clients as well are like, hey, just do it once, be compliant, we don't care, just do the pen test or we'll move on. So there's two sides of it. So there's the ones that like are really, really scared about it and they really want this to like, want us to be on top of it. And then the other ones are more like, we don't really care, we just want to pass the compliance and move on with our life. We're like, okay. So there's both sides.
Got it. And then I guess for events like CrowdStrike or something like this, is it something where you guys will look into and be like, okay, we got to like, take a look at, our current clients and like potential prospects and be like, hey, like this is happening, letting them know like this is a crisis and like potentially just showing them that goodwill feature, like, hey, we're here to protect you and help you guys. Like, if you guys need something, let us know. Or is there some type of communication that you guys do when there is like a big event going on?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what the actual scenario is. If the client is hiring us to be able to be with them through the entire year, then we have like a Slack channel or a Discord channel, depending on what they want for that communication. And they'll communicate with us, we'll communicate with them. If they're, engineers, like, hey, something's wrong, something's down, we have one of our engineers on our side help them out and go through the entire process with them. And then sometimes we find stuff on our end. We're like, hey, there's an outage, blah, blah, blah. We've heard about it, but I don't think you guys have known about it yet. And we'll come in and remediate that process immediately before they even find out as well. So there's two sides of the scenario, just depending on which ones get there faster and better. And, we help them through the entire journey from like, hey, here's the incident response part to the remediation to making sure everything's good and closed and nothing being leaked outside of that environment.
I mean, we also even see on our different end from like companies who just raise seed round and need to get stock compliancy. Like we do that as well, right? So we've seen different markets to the point where like they're getting their feet wet. They want to start getting like compliancies and start thinking about that. And we've streamlined it to the point where we do that in house. So that's another inquiry that we usually get as well. It's like, oh, we're looking for stock or like type 1 or type 2. Can you do this? And we're like, yes, 100%.
Okay, nice. How long do those engagements take? Is it relatively smooth and easy because it's not that a lot of infrastructure and things that they have, or does it still take about the same amount of time that you would do like a mid-tier enterprise client?
Yeah, it depends on the client. If it's enterprise, it's very, very large. But a lot of times, a lot of enterprise clients have, smaller infrastructures for each department or for each thing they have. So technically, if people think about enterprise, they're like, oh, it's massive. It's like, but they break it down into sections, and it's a lot easier to, digest and make sure everything's, enclosed, secured, and we're remediating the right process. We can use tools. We have in-house tools that help us out with this process and go from there. But if it's like a very, very large enterprise client, then it kind of like takes a little bit longer. But if it's, a smaller startup to mid mid companies, then it's a little bit faster. But also depends on how big the breach or the incident was. A lot of incidents happen, and they take down the entire system for good, and that takes weeks and months and sometimes years for depending on that client's situation. Then sometimes if it's just a smaller incident, then it could take a couple minutes to an hour. So it just depends. It just also, you know, we have to make sure the client's also providing the right value and the right information for us. Because if we don't know what the right information is, then we can't really help them out. In a timely manner.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Where do you guys see your guys' self? Where do you guys see the? Actually, no. First question. For price points, let's say somebody's listening to this podcast. They're like, "Wow, I got to start my pen testing firm yesterday," and they're like, "I'm going to contact this company." And then let's say the company's like, "Yeah, well, that sounds good. How much are you charging?" Do you guys have a ballpark about what a starting pen testing firm should be charging, or anything in this area?
See, that's a very hard question to answer because our expertise and the teams that we built here at ApolloGuard are very, I would say, it's very different, right? Their expertise that they bring to any organization that we provide, it's very very different perspective. So, and because like you could get taught how to do a pen test and start charging the most basic minimum price, and then work yourself up.
Is that like a couple thousand, like at 100, $1,000, like a couple $1,000? You think?
I mean, it depends. If it's your individual, then I'm pretty sure they'll do by hour, right?
Oh, by hour. Okay, got it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like it varies. Like if a person is like its own wants to start its own firm, or like a pen
Mm.
testing firm, right? Like if it's an individual person, then it's very different because then the person would do the work, so he would potentially do it by hour. So
Do a bill
it's
by
very
hour.
very
Okay,
different. Yeah, it's very hard to answer that question.
okay, that's fine. All right. Would like to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing in the future. So, what do we have to look forward to for Apollo Guard 2025 coming Q1, Q2, and then moving into Q3, Q4?
Yeah, I mean, to continue to grow, to build and scale for our clients and then outreach on different markets as well. We really want to hone in on the government side and then also in the insurance, like cybersecurity insurance side, trying to build different solutions for them and make it better.
Yeah, I mean, more so just growing the team out. Finding more clients that we can provide value for. That's the biggest thing, and then, growing our government sector, our public sector, private sector as well. Just getting our name out there, providing more value. Just more so, just figuring out how we can disrupt the market from our standpoint. Of like, hey, we're out here. We know what we're talking about. We can provide the value that you would need, and not just some regular pen test. Like we're going above and beyond just a regular pen test. We're finding vulnerabilities that actually matter and actually need to be fixed than just a regular OWASP top 10. And that's kind of like the value we want to, portray out there, and hopefully that kind of happens within the next year or so.
And then also honing in on building our reputation too. Our name and our reputation as well, and keep that strong. And then also on the international side, we really want to make a change on that. grab more or get more clients and start building relationships and then our network on that end as well.
All right, let me ask you this, guys. So if people want to learn more about ApolloGuard, where can they hear about you guys and reach out and get more information?
Yeah, come follow us on LinkedIn. We send out blog posts out there, and then as well as ApolloGuard.io. Check out our blog post. Come to our solutions page and learn more about what we offer. And if you reach out if you guys need anything, and we're more than happy to help.
Excellent. And then I always ask this last question, to get more understanding about if you guys, as you guys grow and stuff like that, hackers are always growing, but entrepreneurs are also always growing as well, usually reading books. So would like to hear if you guys have any books that you guys read recently, but also have you had any book that's it's a must read, it's super inspiring that you're just everyone should read this book?
Yeah, I guess the book that I've read recently, and I think it's helped a lot with tremendously growing our current company, was Your Next Five Moves by Patrick Bet-David. It talks about more of the business moves of hey, what to expect in the future and how to get there, and kind of more so think about what your mindset should be in concluding goals to making sure those goals are met, and then also preparing yourself for those scenarios. So sometimes things might not go your way, but then you're also finding other ways to solve that problem regardless of what happens. So, having your next five moves and whatever certain moves that you kind of provide to yourself and knowing how to get there, and is a lot easier than just here's one big goal and then chase after it. Putting it into smaller goals and smaller steps is a lot easier to do from that standpoint.
To add on to that, in the beginnings of starting ApolloGuard, the book that really standed out to me and kind of put a good mindset in me, it was the subtle art of not giving a shit.
You can say it.
Yeah, giving a fuck. It's by Mark Manson. And then the other book that I recently just finished was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
What did you like about the subtle art of not giving a fuck? What was if you finished it or if you're still reading it, what were some of the things and takeaways from it? Obviously, the title seems pretty strong, but let's break it down even more.
The context was pretty strong. I didn't really. I was just looking at the thesis that he was trying to get out of there, right? Of you're instead of being boggled up into your mind, right? If you go through these questions and ask yourself, can you do this? And okay, fine. If you affected this problem, what can you change out of it? If you can't change it, then why are you so upset about yourself? Because you can't do anything to go back and change it. So then now look at it in the future. Okay, what can I do to not, one, feel in this position of being boggled up, but then two, of not repeating that same action.
Got it. So more about the sort of art of not giving a fuck is about not looking back primarily and worrying about what happened in the past, but to look forward and prevent the reason why you made that mistake in the first place to prevent it. Does that sound?
Yeah. Okay. And then also it's more about you really starting off in this mind a company. You could always you think about some random things. You'll wake up and you'll feel emotional roller coasters. You'll feel different things starting off, because you'll feel uncertainty at times. And reading that book kind of gave me that strong mindset of keep asking yourself questions why do you keep feeling this, right? And reassuring yourself if you just stay true to the path and just keep working, and you will get there, but you will get some potholes to gotta fill, and just keep to it and keep pushing, and I think that helped me set that mindset of mine in the earlier stages of ApolloGuard.
Nice. Yeah, I'll share Marcus Saylor, he mentioned another book, The Obstacle is the Way. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds good. So it sounds quite similar, because I think, as I'm doing more podcasts, as I'm interviewing more people, and as I'm listening to more podcasts and realizing that they have the same challenges and things I have. I don't even, have you heard of The 4-Hour Work Week? It's a pretty older book by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, very good book. Yes.
Very good book. apparently he had a podcast. I had no freaking clue he had a podcast, but I was like, oh, cool. I started listening to it, and like his first few episodes are, terrible. And I'm like, oh, that's how I feel about some of my podcast stuff. And then I listen to how he's interviewing and how he's asking questions and things. And what I want to circle back to is like, I feel that a lot of people have the ideas of these founders and people. It's like, well, we did this, then we shifted here, then we shifted that. So it's really good to hear about the stories of people that's like, oh no, like we struggled, we didn't know how to do anything at this time. So like, it inspires you because you realize like, okay, cool, like these people failed, and they also failed in all of these other types of ways, but they made it very successful. So even if I fail, I know that's part of the journey, and not just like the success is the end point, but it's like who you become along the way is the entirety of the story, right? So, and
Totally
it's
agree with that. Yeah.
kind of one of those things that people just say, but like until you're actually like feeling like bad or down, and then it's like, and then feel better. Like you don't, you got to feel it out. You got to feel like shit to be able to feel amazing later in those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one book that I read in the past that helped a lot with that as well was Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It more so talks about like how people became the one of one in their industries or in their path. Sometimes, it was by coincidence, sometimes it was by luck, sometimes it was just like by hard work. But all of them never gave up. They could, they continued and continued, continued. It always failed. But one thing that they didn't do was, they didn't quit. And Outliers kind of like, made that known. It's like, hey, even if you're, one of 100, but you continue to push, you can become one of one. But you just like, continue at it. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Learning and failing forward, I think, is what it's called. So, like, if you have an issue, keep failing forward. And then I know, Punjab, you mentioned 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. I remember one of them that I'll never ever forget, and it's the one that says like, think of a win-win-win scenario, because the reason why it's so like groundbreaking for me is because at least when I was originally starting, I say originally, I was like a kid, maybe I was like 13 or something, thinking about business. It was always competitive. I was like, it's a win-lose. I win, somebody else loses. And the whole shift of thinking like you must think win-win-win, win for me, win for you, win for society, is because if you start your thought process there, you can fight yourself to figure out a good solution. While if you start at win-lose and then try to think about a win-win-win, you'll never get there, because you'll always think like, I could always screw them over this way. I could screw them over that way. They could screw me over. I could screw them this way. And you never get to the point of like, well, what if we just all try to make it a successful thing for everyone? So like that book specifically, when I hear somebody that reads it or knows that concept, I understand that they have a good understanding about business and about the way that you should treat clients and customers as well.
And that's how like our whole mentality of partnership kind of grew. It's more like if we can't provide you, then we will feel bad, and we don't want it to have a one-way street. So that's kind of how like, thank you for even mentioning that phrase. It's the win-win-win. It's like if we both win, then let's do it, right? Like let's form this partnership. We want and our clients are happy. That's a win all around. We go home happy, we'll go to sleep happy, and we'll, keep producing things happy as well within the company.
Yeah, definitely. And I should even mention like the way like Daniel, like I had originally reached out when I first met you, and I reached out to you is around recruiting and stuff like that. And then later you'd reach out to me saying like, hey, like, starting my own company. We want to issue and create partnerships. So if you help find clients, that would be great. We'd like to work with you and stuff like that. And it immediately made me realize like, okay, he cares about building these types of relationships. Him and this business, ApolloGuard, they care about building relationships with people and partnerships, and not just, leverage, whatever type of assets or things other individuals have, right? They care about building these strong relationships, which if you look at any type of successful businesses, this is exactly how they set up. So it made me very interested in working with you guys and like, speaking to you more and stuff like that. So
I mean, with our morals and our background, our culture, and stuff like that, we thrive in making, the human connection number one. But that's what we are. Like, code doesn't happen without humans. vulnerabilities don't happen without humans. So like humans are the basic necessity of everything. So just being nice to someone, providing that value, and just being a kind human is kind of what we're just trying to provide. And in the markets that we're in, a lot of people are not like that. But when they see that, hey, we're just like them, we're just normal people. We're just trying to provide a value to help their companies out. They're like, oh, well, you guys are very easygoing. You're not demanding. You're not trying to get money from us. You're just trying to provide value, and in return, it's just how the market is and how business works. You just get the value back, and that's all we hear about. So
Like at the end of the day, like we don't want your company to get hacked, and that's why we're here, right? Like what that would just make the whole like the industry just become bad, and just like we don't want that to happen. That'll ruin your reputation as well, and it's just like a very iffy down like road path. So that's what we like to provide as well.
Yeah, I was listening to it was Philip Wiley and Jason Street. They had a episode together, and Jason was talking about how somebody was bragging at a conference saying like, yeah, I hacked these people like, the same way I did last year, like, and he was really excited about it. And Jason was saying like, then you failed as someone assessing the company because they didn't do your recommendations or they didn't learn anything. Like, you need to be an advocate for their security, not be proud that you're able to hack them. That's not what we do in cybersecurity. We sell, security. We sell like them being safe. Not we don't sell like, hey, you suck. Like, here's a report saying it.
Another thing that we don't do is like we don't put other company like departments down. For example, like if their security team isn't doing the job, then we're not going to be like, haha, look at you guys, like you guys don't know anything. Well, no, let's take a step back. Let's help you get to that like that safetiness and whatnot. So it's all about like working together, right? It's not about like, oh, I know this, you don't, so look at us. We don't like to,
Right.
we don't really like to do that.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this conversation. It's been very inspiring, and I know that our listeners are going to feel just as inspired to maybe even start their own firms. Maybe they'll reach out to you directly, have some questions for you, or they'll ask me some questions and I can pass them over to you. But is there anything else that you guys would like to share before we finish to close things up?
yeah, if there's any security engineers out there, vulnerability researchers, anyone in the security space that would like to work with us as well, let us know. Our emails and everything will be in the comments below or the section below, wherever you can find us at. Just contact us if you're someone that you think would provide value to us. We are always welcome to conversate with you, see where you can fit in, and go from there. So
Yeah, and just to finish it off, Chris, thank you for having us. And just hearing and having us on your podcast. And if anyone wants to learn more about ApolloGuard, feel free to reach out. Our website is apolloguard.io, and then you can reach me out personally on my email that Chris will link below.
Excellent. Yeah, that's correct. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you guys being here, and I know that you guys are going to inspire a lot of people getting into the industry, and I know that you guys are going to have some more great talent come to you guys, as well as help service a lot of great companies. So thank you guys so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, brothers. Have a great one.